Hello, guys. Welcome back to Life Abroad Panama podcast. Today, we have an incredible guest. She is a U.S. expat who came along with her husband and her dog. Blindsided, she didn't know mostly anything about Panama, but she came anyways. We want to know her incredible story. Follow along.
Facing immigration questions or business legalities, our lawyers are here to help you. We make it easy to get the legal advice you need when you need it.
Okay, we begin with the interview with the amazing Kelle Sparta. That's how you pronounce your name, right?
Kelle.
Kelle,
Yes.
really?
Yeah.
Kelle with an E and not with a Y?
My mother was phonetically stupid. I can't help it. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
love it.
My mother
I love
absolutely
it.
knew her phonetics. She was an English teacher. She said it's a name. It could be anything it wants. So
Yes, you can have an H in the middle and it counts. I love Kelle. That's crazy. I've never heard a Kelle with an E. Really original. I want to know your story, Kelle. I want to know where are you from exactly. I know that you are from the U.S., but I want to know where exactly, what made you come to Panama, how, when, why, all the W questions. And I want to know also about yourself, your profession. Are you married? Are you single? Where do you live right now? Etc., etc. I want to know who Kelle is.
well, I have a lot to say then. Okay, so my husband and I met in Boston, Massachusetts, and that's where we lived for a very long time. So that's home, right? And then in between Panama and Boston, we lived for 4 years in Richmond, Virginia. And so we moved to Richmond so that we could buy a house. And then COVID hit and we started going, I don't want to be here because it was awful. And the energy was just getting worse and worse in the U.S. And the thing about Virginia is that it's a purple state. So there's Democrats and Republicans and everybody just hated everybody.
What is a purple state?
Yeah. It's a combination of the red and blue of Democrats and Republicans. And so, people were just hating each other. And I was like, this is not what's supposed to happen, right? And I was tired, right? So my husband had worked in kitchens for 15 years. And so he spoke pretty decent kitchen Spanish. And I had been fluent in Spain Spanish, Castilian Spanish, in high school. And so we both had, which was 35 years ago. Okay, so let's be clear. But we both had backgrounds in Spanish, and I had lived on the border of Mexico and so spoke Mexican Spanish a little bit. And so, all of these things in my youth. And so going to a Spanish-speaking country was high up on our list, right? We originally considered Lisbon, Portugal.
Not even Spanish.
Not even Spanish, yeah. But it was one of the big places that was easy to emigrate to, right? Mm-hmm. And then we looked at Valencia, Spain, neither of which did we actually visit because we were researching these in the middle of COVID when you couldn't go anywhere. Yeah. And so, but ultimately what it came down to was I'm an early morning person. And they would have put me 6 hours ahead of my clients because I'm still working.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't want to be working at like 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. That was not my happy place. And so I was like, no, I need to not do that. And so I was talking to a friend of mine, and she had been researching retiring in Panama for years. And she was just about to take the Panama relocation tour. And the month after we had spoken. And so she's like, how about Panama? I was like, Panama? I hadn't even considered Panama. I mean, I had friends who had moved to Costa Rica, but we had gone to Costa Rica and I wasn't a big fan. I didn't like the energy. And I was just like, not feeling it. And then she said, Panama. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll look into it. It didn't even occur to me. And, I had thought about Mexico, and there's, the water issues and things like that. I was just like, maybe not so much for Mexico. But when I started doing the research, my husband and I really loved the videos. And we had already basically decided that Boquete was going to be our place because I do not do heat. Okay. I am not a
I
heat
was going
girl.
to tell you about that. Because Boston, Massachusetts is very cold.
Very
and
cold.
in winter gets extremely cold. I have a friend over there and he complains he has been living in Latin America countries all his life. And he went there and he suffers through winter. He gets the depression. I don't remember how is it called, the one that
Seasonal
you get in
affective
winter.
disorder. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you came to a Latin American country, but the good thing is that they have a little part of the country that is a mountain,
Yeah.
so you get a little bit of freshness.
Yeah.
You know.
So we live at 3,500 feet, which is, I think 1,000 meters or something like that.
It's not
I'm
that
bad at the
high.
conversion. But we live at 3,500 feet, which means that it's, generally in the between 60s and 80s for those doing Fahrenheit. It's usually in the like 17 to 28. Occasionally we'll get up into 30, but not very often.
It's like air conditioning.
Well, we actually installed air conditioning in our unit anyway, because some days it is just hot enough and just humid enough that if you run the dehumidifier, you add heat into the room and it's like, okay, now it's too hot.
Yeah.
So we bought the air conditioner so it could take the humidity out of the air on the days when it's nice out. But some day like today, windows open, everything's lovely, the breeze is blowing, it's fantastic. Summer here is just fabulous, and you get the dust, but who cares? Wipe down your surfaces, it's all good. So so we decided so she came down, did the tour, and came back and said, Boquete, that's the only place you're going to be happy. And I was like, great, because that's what we've decided to. And so that was in April of 2022. In June of 2022, we got the house on the market. In May of 2022, we put the house on the market. We sold it and closed, and we're on our way July 8th of 2022. So we started our research.
Nice.
Yeah, we really did it. And we sold everything we owned, and we arrived with 6 suitcases and the dog. And that was it.
Oh my God.
Which
That is
I'm kind of...
frightening.
Well, this is like the 3rd time I've gotten rid of everything I own. So I'm really not attached to my things. My husband, on the other hand, that was a little bit more of a process for him. But I just don't have a lot of attachment to things. So the thing that I would have done differently is I came down with a week's worth of clothing and was like, I'll just buy clothing when I get here.
Yeah.
But I am a big girl. And there are very few. It took me 6 months to get somebody to tell me where I could buy clothes in my size, which is basically the American import stores, the Importadora Americana, right? And so what I would have done differently is I would have packed an extra suitcase, and I would have gone shopping before I came for clothes, because I thought, I'll just buy them when I get there. And it's still a challenge for me. So I go, but I will say that the shopping process here is so much lovelier than in the U.S. because you walk in with the things you want and they hand them to you. You say sí or no, and they hand them back into you, and they put them back, and it's just like, and off you go. And in like half an hour, I can be in and out with 15 pieces of clothing, and that is awesome. So I love that about shopping here. So even if it is a little challenging for me to find things in my size. Bras. I have not found bras that really fit.
Oh my God.
It's hard. It's hard, I'm big busted too, so
are small. Usually the Panamanians that are originally from Panama and they don't have descent from other places like Spain, they are tiny. They are small, smaller. I am 5'3".
Yeah.
And they're smaller than me.
Yeah, I'm 5'9".
Yeah.
I'm 5'9", and I'm big everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's harder for me to find clothing. But, I'm just going to order from the U.S. and call it good. It's just bras are hard to begin with, but you know how that is. Any woman who's worn a bra knows how that is. Anyway.
Or you can come to the city. and you can buy them here. Yeah, you can.
Do they have plus sizes and bigger size bras here?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have
I
a lot
haven't
of stores.
been there yet. 2.5 years. I still haven't made it to the city.
You see, I invite you to come to the city.
Okay.
To know a little bit. You're gonna be in air conditioning all the time because over here is really hot. But you can walk around, and at night it's very beautiful. We have Casco Antiguo, that is like a historic place. You can learn about the history of Panama. You can go through the canal, and there's a lot of amazing places in the city.
I've heard about the monkey tour. So where you can go out on the boat and see the monkeys.
Also,
yeah. So I'm excited about that. But anyway, so we got here in July of 2022 in the middle of the protests. So the protests had shut down all the roads.
That.
And there was no gasoline to be had and all of this. And so I was so grateful that I had forgotten to rent a car. And so I was like, well, we're not paying for a car we can't use. So there we go. And then so we got COVID the moment we got here, which was from Florida. We stayed for 4 days in Florida on the way down here. And I was like, we got sick the moment we got here. So it was definitely from Florida. What? And so we were sick for a month. And then we lucked out because we found a place online that somebody was talking about, and we said, we really want to see it, but we're sick. I don't want to get you sick. And she said, well, we're still prepping it to sell or to rent. So I just won't do any showings until you feel better. And then, because it's going to take me some time to get it that way anyway. I was like, great. And we rented the first house we saw. And then she's like, do you need a car? And we were like, well, we didn't think we were going to need a car, but now we really realized that we kind of want a car. And she said, okay, what are you looking for? And I told her, and she's like, okay, I'll keep my ears open. And it turns out she had a neighbor and he was a car dealer. And she said, here, I've got your car. And the first car we looked at, we bought. We were just
when you came here, everything
fell into place.
Bad. Yeah. But everything went great after all. Yeah. You just needed to keep on pushing and keep going forward.
Yeah. Our dog actually got trapped in Panama City because of the protests. And so, because we took the flight, but they had to drive him. And so they took care of him. We went with Pets Go Global, and they took care of him for 10 days, and then they brought him out, which actually worked out to be really good because our Airbnb said it was pet friendly, but then said you can't leave your dog alone in the room. And I'm like, without a car, how are we supposed to not leave our dog in the room? This doesn't make any sense. And so, it turns out it was fine because we ended up with all of the stuff already being taken care of, and it was good.
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
In all the areas, but I want to know, the one that pops in my head is, how did you do to travel with the dog? Because I know that dogs even have passports and everything, but I want to know in detail, what did you do? Did you need a permission? How was it legally? Because I don't know much about it.
Yeah, so we actually drove our dog from Richmond to Florida to Miami because we didn't want to put him on 2 flights, right? He was 66 pounds in a boxer pit bull mix. And so we had to have him in a crate, and they needed him sedated. So we had to give him pills to do that. He had to go see the vet before we left, and the vet had to fill out a special FDA form. And then when he came in, he had to be met by a vet in Panama and examined here. And so Pets Go Global arranged that for us. We just contracted with them. So it was actually really easy because we dropped him off. We actually dropped him off 4 days early, and they took care of him in Miami. And so, and then they put him on the plane, and we picked him up on the other. Actually, we didn't even pick him up on the other side. They picked him up on the other side. We never saw him. So, because we hopped straight onto the next flight. So
I was going to tell you that. Did you take a flight directly to Boquete? I don't know if there's a flight directly.
No,
from
no, no, no.
the
You
US?
go to
No.
David. Yeah, you go to David. So, and so we actually had to stay overnight because of the way the flights come into Panama City is that if you miss the 4 p.m. flight out, you just have to wait until the morning. And so that's what happened to us. We arrived at like 7:30, grabbed some food, went upstairs and fell into bed because we were exhausted by the time we got there. And so we flew into David the next morning, grabbed a cab up to Boquete, ended up at our Airbnb, and then promptly within 24 or 48 hours got sick. So good thing we were masking on the plane, but to keep everybody else safe. But
And
yeah,
what
so
did you do when that happened, when you got COVID? Where did you
Well,
go?
we happened to have COVID kits that we had from before that were packed with our luggage. And so we just tested ourselves and we just quarantined in the Airbnb. We just stayed where we were. The guy who was running the Airbnb offered to have a doctor come to the house and see us.
Did that before.
Yeah, we did get some pharmacy supplies delivered. So that we did do that, but we didn't bother with the doctor because we already knew we had COVID and there was nothing to be done for it. So we were just like, oh, we're just in. Why risk getting them sick? My mother was a nurse, so I'm very conscious about the medical stuff. So we just stayed away from people. And, if we had to talk to anybody, we had them stay outside and we stayed inside and we talked through a window. But, so once we got here and got settled, we got into our house. It's so interesting because the locals here call the energy on the mountain here tranquilo, right?
Very calm.
Yeah. And so it was very interesting to me because, we had just been through getting rid of everything we owned and coming down. And it was a very stressful process, and all the protests and the things with that and the dog and the blah, 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 blah. I should have been stressed out to the max with everything, right? And we got into the house and the house was not really ready to be occupied yet.
Okay.
And so every day we found something else that was broken. So, the only appliance that worked was our refrigerator. Everything else we discovered step by step, it wasn't working in some way. And so my husband just kept looking at me like, when are you going to flip out? And I'm like, that's fine. They'll fix it.
Calmness.
I was just like, it's fine. They'll fix it. We're here. It's beautiful. We love it. Why stress?
Nature.
Yeah, we'll go out to dinner. It'll be fine, right? And it was, right? It was just, everything just worked out. The landlady actually credited us back the first 10 or 11 days of rent because of all the things that had to be done. And that actually compensated us because we moved in a week early from the Airbnb just because it was uncomfortable and the dog issue and everything else. And so we moved in early. And so we were thinking we were going to give up that money. And then we ended up getting it on this side. So it actually worked out. And then shortly thereafter, I fell. We have a multi-level house. And I didn't remember there were 2 steps. And I was trying not to turn on the light to wake my husband. And so I missed the second step and ended up falling on my knee really hard on the concrete. And so I had to go get an x-ray because I was fairly certain that I had done something bad to it. And so I went to the local clinic and I was in and out in like half an hour, 45 minutes, just walk in. And the interesting thing was that I had to buy a read-write DVD in order to get the films. They don't provide a DVD there. They had to have something for them to put it on. And so I had to go to the store and buy that. And that's why it took 45 minutes instead of half an hour, is because we had to go to the store and come back. And then they did the x-ray and they read the films and they gave me everything. And I was out and it was $26.
Yeah.
Now, here you go, oh, yeah. In the U.S., that would have taken 4.5 to 6 hours and it would have cost $800 to $1,000.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And just the x-ray. Nothing
Just for
else.
nothing else. Yeah. So thankfully there was nothing wrong. But in the intervening time, I've had a CAT scan and an ultrasound. And I had those done at private centers, not at the public clinics. And so those I was able to book within minutes. Like I was with the same day appointment.
Yeah.
And one of them
And
was
you can walk
$175 and the other one was $200. No insurance. Those were
No
the prices
insurance,
without insurance, right? And in the US, again, that would be an insanely high number and you would wait forever and you would have to
And
have
with
your doctor refer
insurance.
you. And it's just terrible, right? So, we can go into a doctor here, walk in, and for $15, $20
You
bucks.
have pain on your head and you can say, I feel bad. And they say,
Yeah.
let me check on you. And they do scans, they do tests.
Yes.
And everything comes to $400 for example.
Yeah. Well, I can walk into a doctor here in Boquete, and the thing that is most palpable about the difference here is that in the US, you will get about 15 minutes if you're lucky with your doctor. And whatever you can discuss during that time is what you discuss. And anything else you might have to say doesn't get said. You have to make another appointment. Might be 3 weeks to a month to get one. Now, here I walk in, I pay my $20, and I can talk for as long as I need to talk about all the things I need to say so that she gets a complete picture of what's going on with me and not just this little sliver of what I have time to say in 15 minutes, right?
And the good thing is that you have that availability with other doctors. It's not
Yes.
just like principal care. You can do with dermatologists, with oncologists,
Yes.
with gynecologists, all the specialty doctors, and you have the same treatment.
Yes.
And it's also very cheap, even
Yes.
if it's in a private hospital or clinic.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I have to tell you, a friend of mine fell and shattered her hip. And she went to get it fixed at a local hospital here. And it happened that they were having a sale on hip replacements that day. From the US, there is no such thing as sales on medical anything ever. We were all flabbergasted. We were like, what? A sale on a hip
They
replacement?
do a lot of sales over here or
I
offers.
did not know that. That's totally new.
50%
She didn't.
off. Yeah.
She lucked out. It saved her $2,500. She said it would have cost $10,000 and it cost her $7,500. So because she shattered it. I mean, she didn't just do a little bit; she did a lot, right? So, but yeah, that was stunning. I was just like, really? Okay. So, so that's always entertaining. And then
You were liking this country more and more.
yeah, every day.
I'm
I
surprised
fall in love
about
with
your
this country
story,
more and
'cause
more.
You came in a leap of faith. You
Mhm.
came almost blinded, and everything turned out perfectly.
Yeah.
You. There's a lot of people that come here and they get scammed. They rob them. I don't know what other atrocities can happen, but everything turned out pretty good, actually.
I haven't had that problem at all. So
It's amazing. I feel great about all that happened to you. We have a lot of guests over here, and they say some horror stories.
Oh my gosh.
And everything turned out fine for you.
Well,
I'm glad about
I
that.
will say, for one, I think where you are makes a difference, right? If you're in a depressed area, right, you're going to have people who are in survival and they're going to need to steal to survive, right? You're going to have more crime in depressed areas. And so it depends on where you are. We're up in Boquete, which is one of the more expensive places to live. And they actually have a checkpoint in place to keep people from coming up who aren't supposed to be there, the gangs, because they used to have a problem with that like 12, 15 years ago. I think the other part of it is that my husband and I do try to speak the language as much as possible. And I think that actually keeps us in good stead in a lot of ways, right? When you come in as a gringo, which is not a nice term, right? It's like if you're called a gringo, it's because you are being a rude American. It's basically what it comes down to, right? It's like you are being completely culturally tone deaf, and you are not paying attention, and you're not trying to fit into the culture. And my husband and I we make a lot of effort to fit into the culture. We came here because we wanted the culture, not because we wanted to bring America with us, because we left because America kind of sucks right now. So, why would we want to bring it with us? That's crazy, right?
Yeah, no.
So you have to learn to operate a slower pace. You have to learn to operate at the thing that becomes most vivid when you live in a Latin American country as an American is that you have been programmed to be a producer and a worker.
Yeah.
And that is where your value is in your awareness. That if you're not working or doing something, then you have no value as a person.
Yeah.
And it's a really toxic belief structure, but that's what the U.S. belief structure is. And so you really have to unwind that here, because there's a sense of entitlement that comes with that says, I've worked my butt off to make sure that I had value. You need to work your butt off for me now because it's my turn. And it's a trauma response, right? And so, I get that it's a trauma response, but don't be a Karen, right? It's just don't be a Karen. We don't need that. Be kind to people and know that their value is not based on whether or not they bring your cheeseburger out at the same time as they brought out the next person's plate, right? It's don't expect that your food's going to arrive all at the same time. Just chill.
Time, relax.
Just chill.
Yeah, if you came as a retired employee, just retire, just chill, just live your life. And there's a lot of people that have had problems with that, and they love the country so much that they say, okay, I'm going to put my pride aside, I'm going to put my cultural background aside, and I'm going to just breathe in, breathe out, and go with the flow.
Yeah.
Things are going to get done eventually.
Yeah. I'm always shocked when I go into town and find there's a parade I didn't know about, or a gathering I didn't know about. And I'm just like, oh, amazing, right?
So
and
random, I love it.
It is. I have a friend who runs Expatsy.com, and she lives in Mexico, and she said that a Mexican friend of hers recently said, the thing that's, the problem with Americans is that in Mexico, when we're not at work, we're out. We're out with friends. We're out with family. We're out, interacting with other people and having a good time. We're outside. We're at cafes. We're at bars, whatever. And he said, Americans, what you guys want to do is you want to make enough money that you can build this huge house that has the gym inside and the coffee bar inside and the, and gathering space inside. And the cinema inside, so that you never have to see anyone else ever again.
Yeah.
And he said, no wonder you guys are so lonely. And it's like,
I've talked with a lot of people that say that Americans are very individualized. They have become self-centered, and they prioritize their needs, but they don't make connections. They're not warm towards each other, and they lack that sense of community. I help you, you help me. Right. If you are going through something, you can speak to me. And those are the things that Americans really enjoy when they come to Latin American countries. Yeah. Where there's a lot of different cultures, and we mix each other. We love each other. Even though I don't know somebody, I can say hi to them in the streets. And if I see that somebody is in need, I just ask them, oh, are you okay? Do you need something? Right. Are you lost? And people really feel like, oh, I've been missing this my whole life. And they feel like a warmth inside of them. Yeah. I really love that about Latin America.
Yeah, I do too. Now, in Richmond, people were a little more friendly. The South is more social.
Yeah.
It's social, though. it's social. It's not actually friendly, because I grew up in a lot of the South. And so, they'll be like, how y'all doing? Hi, talking to you on the street. And you get that here. Almost everybody you walk by will be like, buenas, 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 right?
Yeah.
Which I love. It makes my day. But in the South, the friendliness isn't any more friendly than the Northerners are. It's just that they're being more social with they're still not actually open to you. They're just, they'll say something
like
kind,
extroverts.
but it's not. Oh, you still have to make your way in, right?
Yeah.
There's no getting in. Whereas I find in Latin American countries, it's wide open, heart open, welcoming until you give them a reason not to, right? They are welcoming until you give them a reason not to, as opposed to you have to give them a reason to let you in, which is what the U.S. is, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just different. But and I just love that. Like I went to see a friend of mine today at the Tuesday market, and she was actually the person who taught me how to find clothes in my size. So that's how we became friends, is that I looked at her. I was like, please tell me where you shop. So I was desperate at that point. And that's how we became friends, is that one question. And we've been friends for the last 2.5 years.
So you have your community, you have your neighborhood, you have you already know like the city around Boquete and the village and all of that. I want to know what were the challenges you had when you first came, like when settling in?
Yeah, the hardest thing was knowing what store to go to for what you wanted. I was actually, one of the things that I did when I figured it out is I actually wrote a list and I posted it, and I post it periodically to all the newcomer groups, because I was like, if I had this list, it would have been so helpful to know that this store is the equivalent of CVS, this store is the equivalent of Home Depot, this store is, to just know what they were, because you didn't know where to go because you didn't even know what the stores were.
That's it.
Right, exactly. And so that was probably the hardest thing. And then there was just the exhaustion, when you're running really hard for 6 months, trying to get everything sold and, the house ready to sell, and all the things, and getting, putting things aside and moving things to people's houses if you wanted to keep them and whatever. It's just exhausting. And then you come, and now you're operating. Thankfully, in Boquete, there's a lot of English, so we didn't have to operate in Spanish constantly. Yeah. But, you're operating sometimes in another language. You're operating, you try to figure out where the stores are. Everything takes 5 times as long. You don't know the streets. You don't know lots of stuff. That it's a lot of extra exhaustion. The first 6 months is just trying to orient and get comfortable, right? And then, of course, you don't have any friends initially and all the things. And so you feel a little isolated at the same time, which I didn't do because I'm social girl. So I immediately went out and I ended up running karaoke at a local bar. And, I got to know a lot of people that way. And, just a lot of things that happened along the way. So I was very big about going out and being social, but my mother was military, so I learned how to do that very young. And so that's natural for me. But I will say the one thing is that once you make friends, and it does not take long to make friends once you go out into the world, because if you're in an expat area, right, if you're in an immigrant area, then, everybody there who is, an immigrant like you are, everybody there doesn't have any friends, right? Or they have very few friends. They want to make friends, right?
And the good thing is that they speak the same language as you.
Right. And it also selects for people who are open-minded and adventurous, which if you're somebody who is relocating, you're open-minded and adventurous too. So you've got things in common with these people.
Yes.
I made much closer, much stronger friends since I got here. I've made more of them since I got here than I did in 20 years in Boston. And I met a ton of people in Boston. So,
but they were not like very engaging, and they didn't have that true connection.
It's not that it wasn't a true connection. Mm-hmm. It's that, in any big city, you're going to have people with a variety of different personality types and traits. And in this small town, everybody has that open-minded, adventurous sort of mentality.
Yeah.
And so it self-selects for connection, right? Because of that. And it's not anything against the people in Boston, because the people in Boston were great too. It's just it's a different type of person that you run into consistently when you're in communities where people have left their home countries. You know, you run into very similar personality types.
And speaking about connections, that friend of yours that investigated and researched a lot about Panama,
yeah,
where is she now?
She's still in Michigan.
What?
I know.
You did what she wanted to do, and she did it through years, and you just made up your mind about something, and you just did it.
So to be fair, she is she's taking care of her elderly mother. And she is waiting to see mom off the farm. So when mom passes away, which is probably going to be soon, she will come down. So it's not that she's not a doer. It's that she's trying to take care of mom. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what did she say about Panama that made you like choose it right away? Because she didn't have to say much. She did the research for years, and she just talked you through it, and you say, that's it.
Well, we watched a whole bunch of the videos. Panama Relocation Tours puts out a ton of videos. So we watched a ton of their videos because that's who she was going through. And so she pointed us in that direction. And so we watched a lot of the videos, and she was talking about the fact that it's in the same time zone as the U.S. So when U.S. is on standard time, we're on East Coast. When U.S. is on daylight savings, we're in Central, right? It's super easy.
An hour of difference.
Yeah, it's an hour off.
Daylight savings, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so it just made it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know, what did you have to do legally? Did you have a visa or a type of document done for you?
Yeah, we went to an attorney in David, and we had we're in the process of getting our Friendly Nations visa, and so we will have that in July, and we will have permanent residency at that point. At which point we will go for an e-cedula, and then I think it's 2 years later we can get our citizenship. And so we'll go for that. So we're working on getting more fluent in Spanish so that we can pass the test. Although I do read better Spanish than I speak, because you guys have a tendency to smush your words together and shorten your words. And I always get complimented
with a lot of words.
Yeah. I get complimented on my diction because I speak like I'm a Spain speaker still. So I haven't learned the smushy bit.
But it's fine. Yeah. We love that people really try to communicate in Spanish. When they say at least hola, we say, oh my God, your Spanish is so good. Wow, you're fully bilingual.
Well, I have my TikTok channel, and I talk about moving here, which was not the intent for the TikTok channel.
I was going to ask you, what is your social, so you can do a little shout out?
Yeah, so it's at Kelle Sparta, just like you see it on the screen, Kelle. And that's pretty much any social, you'll find me with that. And it's the advantage of having an unusually spelled name is that you can get it on any social.
Yeah.
But when we were getting our documentation and everything, it's been a process, right? There's been a lot. And then you have to apply for your visa. So you come in, you have a 6-month visa walking in the door. And then that's a tourist visa. And then you go and you talk to your attorney, and they get the visa process started for you. And then you have to, the moment you get your first visa, what's the order of operations? You only get 3 months to drive.
Yeah.
Before you have to get your driver's license in Panama. And that was its own challenge. I can park in the North End in Boston, and that usually means that you get 2 inches on either side of your car. And I can put any car in a parking spot in the North End of Boston. And I did not pass the parking test like 3 times because there were ropes and I couldn't see the ropes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can park. Put a car on either side and I will park it perfect.
I swear.
Right? I'm just like, what is... And there's a rope on the inside line too, right? So like you can't put your bumper over the curb, which I didn't understand until I started parking in Boquete. There are a lot of places where the car bumper does not go over the curb. The curb is higher than the car bumper. So that's actually a reasonable thing to do, but it was not, I wasn't used to it, right? So yeah, it was a little frustrating, but I got there eventually.
And where did you get this attorney?
So Panama Relocation Tours has a list of approved attorneys, and so we went with one of their attorneys.
So important.
Yeah,
that's so important because people come here and they just look attorney, and anybody can come up, and that's the horror stories that I'm telling you about.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that have been scammed by attorneys, but guys, let me tell you, if you need an attorney, NDN law firm, that's us. Just contact us and we can do everything for you. You don't need to move a finger. Okay, continuing. I'm really impressed because I'm somebody that also wants to move in the future. And the interviews that I've been doing, I've been like, oh, okay, this is a place that I can go. This is somebody I can contact, and I think that moving at certain age, for me, it's like, I'm young, I can do everything, But
absolutely.
People, when they get to a certain age, they think, I'm already, I want to retire, I want to relax. And being so adventurous is something that I admire, I want to know, what are you doing right now to have the life you're having in Panama? What is your job?
Yeah, so I'm a spiritual teacher. So I'm a shaman, and so I do online classes and coaching for people all over the world, actually. So, and then I also run retreats here in Panama periodically.
Yay.
So, but yeah, the vast majority. This is why I have my podcast, right? We were like, oh my God, you've got a podcast set up. You're all ready to go. I'm like, that's because I have my podcast. My podcast is called Spirit Sherpa. And I've been running that for 7 years, and that's where the vast majority of my business comes from, is people listen to that.
So you started in Boston.
I started it in Boston. I started the podcast because we were moving to Virginia, and I had been running a locally based business where I was running classes locally, and then I would sell people up into my bigger programs. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to do that. And, we've got to have enough money to live. And my husband wasn't going to have a job when we arrived yet. He still had to go shopping for a job. So, I needed to keep the money coming in. And so I was like, all right, so let's start the podcast, because that way, I'm doing the classes. I'm just doing them on a weekly basis on a podcast. So it was much more often, and it was farther reaching. I'm actually I'm a top 2% podcast at this point, because we've been around for so long. So that was it was both a big undertaking, and it did take a little bit for it to kick in. We started running it in June, and, we moved in late August. And so, it started to kick in by then, but I was really marketing a lot with it, and I was putting it out on different sites in the local Richmond area and all over. I didn't have to be local anymore because of the podcast. So, which when 2020 hit was super good, because I was already online. And 2020 was so easy for me in terms of my business, because I was already on Zoom. I was already doing virtual. I was already working from home. It was just like,
you got everything prepared.
Yeah, it was all done. So that actually was good, because there was a lot that was not okay about 2020 too. So 2020 was a lot in general. But
and being that you work online, you have the intake of money in dollars. So that's amazing, because Panama already uses US dollars.
Yeah.
I want to know, what is the difference or what difference have you seen between the cost of living in the US and Panama?
Yeah. So in the US, we had in Richmond, we owned a house. It was 1,100 square feet, and it was on a 1/4 acre lot, and it was 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, teeny tiny bathrooms, and a nice kitchen. And in Panama, we rented a house, which is 1,350 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. The bathrooms are small too. The kitchen is smaller than the one we had in Richmond, but still a gringo kitchen. It's a gringo style kitchen. And it's on a 1/4 acre lot, roughly. And we've got a beautiful Japanese garden in our backyard, and it's fantastically gorgeous. And
I want to see pictures.
The house in Richmond was $1,250 a month, and the house here is $975 a month. So that's a significant savings.
Wow. Yeah.
And our food bill, now this was before the food prices went insane, but our food bill back in Richmond would cost us $750 to $1,000 a month. Now, my husband's a chef, so we buy very nice ingredients. So that was that. And it's just the 2 of us and the dog. So, but here it runs $300 to $500 a month. And same thing, we're still buying high quality ingredients, the whole 9 yards, right? And the food's much fresher. And the biggest problem we had in Richmond was getting vegetables that didn't rot within 2 days.
Yeah.
Which was ridiculous because we were in the middle of the farm area.
In Boquete, they do all the farming, and all the producers are doing they have the carrots and the potatoes and all the vegetables that you want are there.
Yeah.
So
and if you go to David,
as fresh can get.
Absolutely. And if you drive to David, you can get everything at half the cost that you get it here in Boquete. But, it's so cheap. Why bother? Right. So and then we have a housekeeper who comes once a week. And we have one of the more expensive housekeepers because she's been trained to do sort of gringo style cleaning, which is different. And so she's $35 a week. In Richmond, it was $100 a week to have our housekeeper come.
$5 a week?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we had one of the Panamanian style cleaners before that for $25 a week, and she was good, but it wasn't quite where we wanted it to be, right?
Yeah.
And so that's been a huge savings. Our medicines are roughly equivalent. Yeah. So we paid for insurance in the U.S., and so I'm including the cost of insurance because we don't have insurance here. We paid for insurance, and then we also paid co-pays for the meds. So if you add those 2 things together, the cost of our medicines here are probably roughly the same as, actually less. They're less because, and that was with subsidized insurance because my husband had it through his work. So he was paying like $400 a month for insurance. And then we would pay our co-pays on top of that for our meds. And so here we're paying about $250 a month for our meds, and we're not paying for insurance. So in terms of other costs, our utility bill here it's roughly equivalent to what it was in Richmond, but we are running we had an air conditioner in Richmond too. So it's roughly equivalent. So we're paying about $100 a month. $70 to $100 a month, depending on the time of year. And then our propane. So propane is, you're running your propane for your hot water heater in your bathroom and for your hot water in your sink and your dishwasher and laundry. And here's the hint. Buy the small containers. Because if you get the big ones, they cost you a lot more per pound than the small ones. And so we have learned because of the protests to buy extra containers, extra bottles, propane tanks. And so now we own several propane tanks of our own, plus the ones that the landlord provided. And they fill for $5 a pop. So,
Yeah.
and you have to refill them every 3 or 4 months. So it's costs like nothing, right? It really doesn't cost anything. And because we're in Boquete, which is a small town, our gas bill's gone down dramatically. So I had a hybrid, so our costs were pretty low to begin with, but now we fill our tank every week and a half or so, and it's like $30. So that's really cheap too.
Yeah.
And then to go out to eat is 15 to, well, I mean, if you go to a really nice restaurant, you could spend $75 a person, but for the average restaurant is going to be $15 to $30 for dinner, which is a lot cheaper than the US for most places now.
I love that you have everything like calculated to the T. And that is good because you give information out to the people that really needs it, and people that come from the US or those countries that the cost of living is much higher. They see the opportunity that they have over here. If they work remotely as you do, they still make money in US dollars in the amount that the US has them, because the salary over here is lower, but the good thing is that the cost of living is also lower. So you have a great house for less than $1,000. You have extremely good food because everything is grown locally,
quality.
And everything is high quality. And you live in a place that you want to be in, So I really enjoy that you give out that information because it's really useful.
Yeah. So I hope that gives you everything you need, because I have another call that I have to run to. Okay, great.
I really loved speaking with you. I loved your story, how you came here with your husband, and how brave was it of you that you just saw the place and you fell in love with it. You did your investigation and you came here, and everything turned out to be great. You had no horror stories.
Nope.
I want to know, for the conclusion, if you had the opportunity to do it all over again, what would you do different and what would you do the same?
Okay. I would probably ship my hot tub, but we didn't know that at the time.
What?
So we didn't know that was possible.
That is
but
such
we didn't know we would end up
answer.
we actually ended up with a house that actually had a pad that it would have gone perfectly on, but we couldn't have known that before we came, right? So if I hindsight, I would have brought my hot tub, but and I would have gone shopping for clothes before I came. Those are really the only things that I would have done differently.
And what would you do the same again?
Come, sell everything.
Amazing.
Come, just be here, right? Just do it, right? Don't take a lot of time. Don't twiddle. Just because you'll just talk yourself out of it. It's a great adventure. Just do it.
Well, thank you so much, Kelle. I really enjoyed your story and your company. I hope everything turns out and keeps turning out amazing. And you can tell your handle and your ads in social media so people can search for you.
So you can find me at Kelle Sparta, Kelle Sparta, and that any platform, any place. And my website is kellesparta.com if you're interested in spiritual teaching and coaching.
Amazing. Guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of Life Abroad Panama. You can comment, like, subscribe, and look for us in Instagram. If you need any attorneys, any legal actions, contact us. Don't look anywhere else. Thank you so much for coming. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Life Abroad Panama. You can find us on all major podcast platforms. Curious about our guests? Just click the links. Looking for legal support? Reach us through our website. And make sure to watch more videos or check out your visa requirements.